You know, standing in front of the open ark and listening to the singing, I was thinking to myself, what a delight. What a delight to hear music again, to hear singing from the hearts, from people who want to be here, who have been prevented from coming but are now free to come. And so, again, I thank you. I thank you for that. Now, unless you have been living on Mars or under a rock or simply just with a pillow over your head, I'm sure you've all heard of the controversy over Whoopi Goldberg's remarks about the Holocaust on the TV show The View. And just in case you haven't, she said, the Holocaust wasn't about race. That's what she said. The Holocaust wasn't about race. Well, it didn't take long for the Jewish social media to become apoplectic and literally go berserk. The print media were no better. They're all ablaze with criticism. Now, I have to say that most people did not say that she was anti-Semitic. Most said that she was ignorant, insensitive, unthoughtful, made hurtful remarks. The Jewish media is still mostly debating whether she's just ignorant or insensitive. Everybody was very quick to fire with all barrels. But my friends, there is another possibility that is not being discussed, at least not in Jewish circles anyway. And that is, what if in fact she's right? Nobody stopped to consider that for a second. What if she's just coming from a very different perspective? As a matter of fact, according to the definition of racism on the ADL's website, and if you don't know what the ADL is, it's the Anti-Defamation League. They are a tuned-in organization that fights anti-Semitism wherever it may be found. You know what they say about the Holocaust? They say that the Holocaust was not about race. I don't see anybody criticizing the ADL. Let me tell you exactly what the ADL's definition says that race is. It says, race refers to the categories into which society places individuals on the basis of physical characteristics, such as skin color, hair type, facial form, and eye shape. And by that definition, by the ADL's own definition, the Holocaust was not about race, because Jews are not defined by physical characteristics, including skin color. Look at all the Ethiopian Jews in Israel. Now, from Hitler's perspective, of course it was about race. Hitler considered Jews an inferior race. He justified his opinion based on the flawed ideology of Darwin's theory of taxonomy. If you don't know what taxonomy is, it's the higher and lower placing of the human species, that some are higher and some are lower in the chain. And so, As far as Hitler was concerned, the Jews weren't even human. And thus he singled out Jews for extermination. But you know what? Hitler felt exactly the same way about blacks. The only problem for Hitler was there wasn't as many blacks in Germany in the 1930s and 40s. They weren't singled out for extermination. You know what they were singled out for? They were singled out for sterilization. Sterilization was good enough. Yes, many blacks were executed for being black, and many were subject to involuntary sterilization so that they could not breed. It's also good to have some context, which has been sorely missing in this controversy over Whoopi Goldberg's remarks. To start with, you can't say that Whoopi Goldberg is ignorant or not sensitive to the Holocaust. On January the 27th, International Holocaust Remembrance Day, just 4 days before this controversial episode exploded, she hosted an episode of The View with a 98-year-old Auschwitz survivor and TikTok star Lily Ebert, who is famous because her great-grandson made a video where she shares her story. And introducing the segment, Whoopi said the following: "Especially in the current climate, it is vital that we never forget the impact of one of the worst atrocities in history." She also told her guests, "It's fantastic to see you here with your grandson. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you that you understood how important this story is for young people to know. A lot of young people are denying it. Here is the proof." What's more, she said, if we don't keep remembering, we can't change the future. The episode where Goldberg made her controversial remarks, if you consider them controversial, was about the way that some schools have banned To Kill a Mockingbird. And a school district in Tennessee also banned the Morse. I don't know if you know about it. They banned the Morse, a graphic novel of the Holocaust illustrated with cats and mice. She was shocked. Whoopi was shocked that they banned the book because of nudity and bad language. She said, "I'm surprised that that's what made you uncomfortable. It's about the Holocaust, the killing of 6 million people. That didn't bother you, but you're worried about a little bit of nudity." On the show, she was speaking out against the banning of Morse. She's been clear and consistent about how important it is that the story of the Holocaust be told. She was definitely not dismissing the Holocaust or downplaying it in any way, shape, or form. But as a person of color, as a black person who no doubt faced a lot of actual racism before she became rich and famous, race is about skin color. And therefore, can you blame her looking at the Holocaust and seeing white Germans killing white Ashkenazi Jews and saying it was white people doing it to white people? She said it was about man's inhumanity to man, demonizing and killing the other. That's however you define, of course, the other, whether it's based on race or some other characteristic. And you know what? She's 100% right. The massacres in Rwanda in 1994, when 800,000 Tutsis were slaughtered by Hutus, clearly wasn't about race. There are many examples. Her point was we need to stop all forms of such hatred of man's inhumanity to man. And the truth is, race is not a biological thing. It's a social thing. Race is a construct of people, not of nature. And many studies have shown the variance within racial groups is far, far greater than the variance between racial groups. In this week's Torah reading, Tetzaveh, as you heard earlier on, is largely about what the well-dressed Kohen wore to work each day when serving God in the Mishkan, in the tabernacle. There are detailed instructions, as you heard, because I told them to you, about the breastplate, the robe, the tunic, the turban, the breeches, all the accessories. You have to be well accessorized. The role of the Kohen, the role of the priest is hereditary, but it's clearly a human construct. And in the case of the Kohanim, we needed clothes to be able to tell the Kohanim apart from everyone else. Their skin color, their physical features were the same as everybody else, as all the other Jews of that time. Race is similarly a human construct. It just happens to be one for which there are physical characteristics that we can use to tell who to put into which category. Now, after the uproar about her remarks, Whoopi Goldberg did issue an apology. I'm not quite sure what she was apologizing for, but she issued an apology. Later on in the day of the show, she posted the following to social media. And she writes, "On today's show, I said the Holocaust is not about race, but about man's inhumanity to man. I should have said it's about both. As Jonathan Greenblatt from the Anti-Defamation League shared, the Holocaust was about the Nazis' systematic annihilation of the Jewish people, who they deemed to be an inferior race. I stand corrected." Her apology was clearly 100% accurate. And you know what? That should have been the end of the story. Canceling her by suspending her for 2 weeks so she can reflect on what it was she said was an unnecessary and not helpful move by the network. And you know why? Because she didn't say anything that's wrong. She is not a Holocaust denier. She's a friend of the Jews, longtime friend of the Jews. It's totally inappropriate to treat a friend this way simply because they come from a different perspective and look at things differently than we do. My friends, we should be learning from each other, not shutting each other down every time someone says something that we feel is insensitive. I'm sure Jews also say a lot of things that sound stupid to blacks when we talk about racism. And thus, my prayer for today is that we all live up to Whoopi Goldberg's vision of a better world, and that we keep remembering so that we can ultimately change the future. Shabbat Shalom.